In 2008, I was the National Youth Representative, and I did submit and present on behalf of the young people of this country to the President of the Republic, then Dr. Levi Patrick Mwanawasa. And most of the issues that are raised in that particular speech in 2008 have not been implemented. Some of those that I'm able to get on top of my head are issues to do with the increasing of the budgetary allocation to the Ministry of Youth and Sport, which is highly inadequately funded. We spoke about issues of a new tax regime on the mining sector, which was the windfall tax that the young people of this country had cried for. We had resolved that it's better our mines, it's better our minerals remain in our ground than for us to be exploited, for those minerals to actually be going out of this country for a song. And what we are seeing now is that the situation has been reversed. The cry of the young people has been reversed because of having leadership that concerns itself with foreign interests rather than the local people. So I ask a question again. What are we supposed to do as young people? Are we supposed to just sit idle and wait, or just watch at the situation as it deteriorates? The answer is no, and again I say no. I believe that we, the young people, are the architects of the country's destiny. You and me are the bricklayers in the nation building process, in building a foundation that is going to be decent, not only for our children, but our children's children. So we need to be able to get involved now, civically become aware what is happening in our country. We get involved and interested. We do have social media now. We can be able to use social media as a right tool to be able to become civically engaged, civically aware, begin to question some of the decisions that are taken by our leaders. Whose interest are they serving? Are they serving the masses, or they are self-serving? We are duty-bound because constitutionally we are given a mandate to question what our leaders are doing with our resources. So the issue of Chinese must be controlled. Young people must be given an environment that is fair for competition. Because I do not want to believe that youth wamenachoka kwa kanyama, agulisa matrousers, will be able to compete with a Chinese that has been given a tax holiday for the next 5 years. Right now, street vending has been criminalized. And our youths, most of which have not been to school, are not able to make ends meet because of government regulation. The legal framework today in this country does not favor that a young person can be able to stand, rise, and achieve the Zambian dream. This is a sorry situation that as leaders we must be ashamed of. Most of the young people today are actually engaged in illicit activities because of the lack of support structures at community level for them to engage in viable businesses, for them to engage in constructive thinking and positive thinking. We are duty-bound as citizens to ensure that we protect our young people, to ensure that we give them the necessary tools that are needed for them to be able to compete, but also succeed in this life. For them to have the necessary discipline, for them to be able to know what is good and what is bad. Unfortunately, the situation today between the old and the young people is like that of a horse and a rider, where a horse gives the rider gives the horse food only because he wants to be able to fulfill certain objectives. I want us, the young people, to be awake, especially those of us that are identifying ourselves with certain political parties. The aspect, the way and manner in which young people are treated in these political parties is very, very bad. The young people will go out, campaign massively for their party to get elected. But the young people are never given an opportunity for them to be able to serve. They are not given an opportunity for them to participate in a more formal political engagement. I'm here to submit to the nation that the young people are not ready. The young people are not available to be used as tools of violence. I am here to submit that the young people of this country are saying no to being used as tools of political violence. Young people now want a stake in decision making. Young people, especially in 2021, want to be adopted as members of parliament, not only as councillors. Because most of the young people have been relegated to very junior functions in governance. We are saying we appreciate the role that you've played in leading and guiding this country to get to the point where we are. And so we want to be able to appeal to the stakeholders in political parties, stakeholders in the church, civil society, to come together and make the environment conducive for a young Zambian to rise up, for a young Zambian to count that he can be able to fulfill his potential. The relevant potential that each and every Zambian holds must be given the necessary environment for it to be able to be used for productivity of the country. The other thing, while also important, is what is our role in the current national dialogue and reconciliation as young people? Like I've indicated, young people are not invited at the table of decision making for them to be able to discuss. So we actually find that this begins at family level, where a young person is not able to be given that particular opportunity. And so let us keep this particular conversation going. And obviously we are live on Muvi TV. We are also live on Jive Radio in the Copper Belt on 90.9 FM. Please, you can be able to join us in the studio on 0978 594682. I repeat, 0978 594682, or you can call us on 0968 863. And obviously we are live on the Unscripted program. Now, the issue of national dialogue is an issue that is quite important. And obviously, the tension that we've had in the country is arising from the 2016 elections that we had, where the UPND came out second and felt that there are certain things that were not right for our country. They actually felt that most of the things in that political environment were not correct for them to be able to consider it a free and fair election. One thing that we need to remember is that an election is not an event. An election is a process. We'll be able to pick first caller. Hello, you are live on Muvi TV. Good evening, sir. We seem to have lost that caller. So as I was saying, an election is not an event. An election is a process. It simply means that what you do before an election, what you do during an election and after an election is very important in determining whether or not an election is free and fair. We can be able to pick our first caller. Hello, you are through on the Unscripted. We seem to have lost that caller. So what you do before an election, during an election, and after an election is very important in determining whether or not an election is free and fair. And obviously, you need to be able to make sure that the election is local driven, all key stakeholders are there. The process must be highly consultative. You must be able to engage people who are the key stakeholders, the different political parties. And by political parties, I do not mean the party that is in power, but all political players that are going to participate in that particular election are very key stakeholders. Arising from the 2016 election, there were a number of key recommendations that were made by the AU Observer Mission in Zambia, the United Nations in Zambia, and also various monitoring groups that came to monitor elections. Some of the recommendations included the issue of ensuring that the Public Order Act, the police must be able to understand the principle of notification rather than permission. And they felt that the ruling party has actually abused this piece of legislation that is meant to safeguard the security of the country in terms of the public meetings that are called. But unfortunately, those that are in power, past and present, have taken advantage of this piece of legislation to verify and demobilize the opposition. despite getting several promises and commitments from those that are in charge of the levers of power, we have failed as opposition to get to a point where we have a Public Order Act that is fairly applied as implied in the law. So these are some of the challenges. The other issue, while also important, was the issue of notification of campaign period. Because the time that ECZ announces that the campaign period has officially begun, that is not enough time for the opposition to mobilize and be able to crisscross the country, canvass the country, go around the country to take their message to the political marketplace. And so the recommendation was that this particular period must be elongated to make sure that the playing field is even. As you may be aware, that the ruling party are going to can be able to campaign at any point. They can go to Lukulu tomorrow on pretext that they've gone to inspect government projects that are going on in Lukulu, when in fact not. Allow me to pick the caller, our first caller. Hello? We seem to have lost that caller. We seem to have a problem with our technical, but our technical team is working on it. So we need to be able to ensure that the environment is conducive for all players to take part. And the recommendations that have been brought in by the different monitoring groups, we must be able to ensure that we meet them. The issue of the result management system for the Electoral Commission of Zambia, there was concern that it must be checked independently for accuracy, it must be checked for transparency, because there are certain people that were not able to access and be able to verify independently the accuracy of the result management system. And it brought a lot of issues, where sometimes there were some issues that where results are announced and what is being announced does not correspond with what is on the ground. And these are issues that were raised by the monitoring groups in this country. The other issue also that was raised was the issue of the Electoral Commission of Zambia using local government administrative structures to administer elections. We pick our first caller. Hello, good evening. You are through to Muvi TV.
Hello.
Hello, good evening, sir. I kindly ask you to reduce the volume on your TV set. We are getting feedback. Mubwezeko volume per TV. We are getting feedback. Hello? We seem to have lost the caller. So as we are saying, the other issue was that the government and Electoral Commission of Zambia is supposed to be able to reduce dependence on local government structures, such as the office of the DC and other local administrative structures for the administration of certain aspects of the electoral process, delivery of ballot papers, and other processes that correspond to an election process. Because we understand that these government structures are actually serving the party of the day. And we know that he who pays the piper is the one that calls the tune. Now, our concern and major concern is that most of these challenges, most of these recommendations that we are raised, have not, up to this very moment, been addressed by our leaders. You are through to Muvi TV. Good evening, sir. Hello, you are through to Muvi TV.
Thank you so much. Good evening.
Good evening.